Thanks for staying with us. On my far right is Senior Counsel Okongo Omogeni, representing the people of Nyamira County. Professor Peter Kagwanja on his left is the Deputy Party Leader, PLP, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Africa Policy Institute. Paul Mwangi is an advocate of the High Court, and Ahmed Hashi, commentator on social, political, and governance issues. Yes, Ahmed, your hand was up.
I think that I think we ought to look at the historical record to give us some kind of illumination about how and what we are. And I think that the British working class, or the English working class, E.P. Thompson, said they were there at the birth of the British working class. The English became a working class, and that consciousness was there because they went to the factory, and their social and political cultural relations from the Highlands, the Scottish Highlands or the Irish Highlands or the English Highlands, broke down. And that's how classes developed within an industrial revolution in the 19th century in Britain. Now, the difference here in our country is that we do not have an industrial revolution to produce classes in the modern sense. It is true what Mr. Mwangi is saying about previously, that there were nations. For example, as a Somali, I'm not a tribe, I'm a nation. 40 to 50 million people in the Horn of Africa have been here about 10,000 years. And we had relations with other nationalities in the region. But the concept of nationalism that we have today in Kenya is a French concept. It's something that has been imported. When the colonialists came and created this construction, this imagined community called Kenya, we were all forced to be together. Now, we produced something called a political elite that fought against the struggle for colonialism and won independence. In Tanzania, Julius Nyerere took a different trajectory. He decided to create something called a nation in Tanzania, and they have a nation.
Not yet.
We don't have a nation in Kenya. We have a country because we decided to trade and follow the West and do capital. And we're now paying the price of the nation being, because we're looking to get a nation. But fortunately for Kenya, the relations that we have today has produced groups of people, the Gen Zs, who are challenging the very idea of our nation state. They are asking profound questions about who we are and where we're going, as Mr. Mwangi here said. So I think that the great Fanon, said that the native doesn't want his freedom. He wants the farm of the colonial master, and preferably his blonde wife. And that's exactly what happened in this country. When Jomo Kenyatta took power, the trajectory in which we're supposed to be taken was not taken. President Moi followed that footsteps, Nyayo. Perhaps the greatest president we had didn't pay attention to the issue of the nation. He paid more attention to the economy and made it work. President Uhuru was there to balance the social relations of our country until he left. Unfortunately for Mr. Ruto, who pressed the red buttons of our economic differences in this country, the whole idea of our country being absolutely in the throes of change has exploded on his face.
Okay.
And how he is going to manage that is the quintessential question. I also believe, lastly, that it is, I think that it is true, it's very unfair to position the nations that were here before colonialism as people who are in a constant war. I think that, yes, there was constant war, but there was also constant trade, there was constant intermarriage. There was, this is the theory of, this clash of civilizations. It's a particularly European idea that civilizations clash. And Edward Said has taught us that civilization may clash at the beginning, but after that they inform each other about civilization. Yeah,
and he disagreed, before I go to Prof, with Professor Samuel Huntington, the author of Clash of Civilizations. But then you pointed out this one French concept you talked about, Then how did then the French Republic rediscover itself in the three pillars of liberté, égalité, and fraternité?
Well, they killed their king.
Okay.
That's why the great Maximilien Robespierre said for the nation to live, the king must die. And down here in Mozambique, Samuel Romoshel would say, for the nation to live, the tribe must die. And here in Kenya, we have the same calculus. Now the standard bearer of this new politics is the Gen Z. In my view, and I've said this repeatedly, I think they're going to transform this country because they make up 75% of the electorate.
Okay.
And how they organize and bring, as my learned friend on the right there has brought up, how they organize and bring a political institution to get them power, though it's an entirely different thing, but it's there.
Yes, Prof.
Let's not kid ourselves, and we might be creating a fantasy that there is a Kenya without tribe, and therefore a Kenya without tribalism. What we are experiencing today in Kenya is not really tribalism, it's anger.
I agree.
And don't confuse anger with tribalism. The Kikuyus have the right to be angry. They have. The Mount Kenya people have the right to feel betrayed. They have blood, they're feeling, they're human beings. Why don't you want them to be angry? And Gachagua is articulating their anger. You can listen to Gachagua when he's speaking. He's angry. There's no doubt about that. And many Mount Kenya people are very angry. So don't try to convert anger, feeling, injustice, as tribalism. Don't confuse that. Two, let's not create a Kenya that has no tribes. I mean, this Gen Z thing, that you tribalist and all that. Nonsense. Why? Because human beings in their entirety are made of multiple identities. This is what the Nobel Peace Prize winner Amartya Sen told us, and he wrote and taught in Oxford for many years, that we in ourselves are made of multiple identities. It's important what identity we want to illuminate at specific times, right? I am a human being. I am a Pan-Africanist because I'm an African. I am a nationalist because I believe in the nation of Kenya. It might not be real, but I believe in it. That's why I'm a nationalist, because nationalism is an ideology. It's something that is in my mind. I am a Kikuyu. And somebody will tell you, I am a Kabete, meaning I'm a Kikuyu from Ichongwa's place. This is now a Kabeteist. You get the point. And when you sit here, you think Mwangi and I are the same. Yeah. We are not. He's a Agaki and I'm a Metumi. That's my identity. When I sit in Muranga and they say Muranga take over in Nairobi, I feel attacked. Because I'm not attacked as a Kikuyu, but as a guy from Muranga who is taking over Nairobi. You remember that movement, the Muranga Takeover group, right? So I'm a Metumi. And if you look at our WhatsApp groups, there is one of them which I belong to, which is called Metumi. Are you getting it? And I am a male. So when me and mother sit on the table to talk about our party, she's a gender, so she's a woman and I'm a man. And we have to know how to live together and how to respect each other. And these are the multiple identities that make us. Why is that important for this debate? It is important for this debate because Kenyans have evoked each of these identities for their own convenience at every one time. 1963, the big thing was nationalism. Odinga, Kenyatta were all nationalists. When they moved out of the republic and went to Ghana to meet Nkrumah or to meet Abdel Nasser, they were Pan-Africanists. So an Arab, Abdel Nasser of Egypt,
Gamal,
Jamal, and Jomo Kenyatta are brothers because they are Pan-Africanists. When we come here, Odinga and Kenyatta are brothers because they are nationalists. Now, you come down, move very, very fast to 2002. What's the big issue? We have a Kikuyu, Uhuru Kenyatta. We have a Kikuyu, Kibaki, fighting for the presidency. Was it the tribe that showed up? No. It was generation. We fought that fight on a generational platform. And finally, 2022, William Ruto, from the 41 against 1 in 2007, is now a class person. The chicken seller, right? The poor boy from the Rift Valley, the shoeless boy walking bare feet, the son of the poor becoming something and fighting the dynasties. So he fights that fight on the basis of class. So the conclusion is, as Kenyans, we take and choose whichever identity we use for our convenience. In 2022, for Ruto, it was class. In 2027, it is tribe. 1 against 41. And the tribe is singled out. It's the Kikuyus.
Who singled that out?
No, that's what it's emerging. It's 41 against 1.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Your opinion, yes.
I think I'm almost losing Professor.
You can.
Let's agree on one thing. We are national TV and we should not joke with tribalism.
Yes.
Tribalism has devastated many African countries. National unity brings cohesion, brings political stability, and with that you'll get economic development. There's nothing wrong for one to belong to a certain tribe.
Yes.
I'm proud of my heritage. I'm Kisi. You're proud of your heritage, being Kikuyu from the mountain.
Yes.
But we shouldn't whip emotions of a tribe against the other.
Yes.
That is divisive. That will not give us development. That's what has caused turmoil in many, many African countries. At independence, Nigeria was put in the same category with Brazil and India in terms of nations that will really grow to become developed countries. But because of the ethnicity that embedded that society, they didn't pick. The Brazilians now are the ones who manufacture the embryo.
Yeah.
India produces the largest number of doctors because they didn't embrace that negative ethnicity. In Nigeria, despite there being 250 tribes, the domination is by 3. The Hausa Fulanis of the north, the Yorubas to the southwest,
and the
Igbos to the southeast. And the first coup of 1966 was because of ethnic suspicion.
Yeah.
The Igbos felt that they were being dominated by the Hausa Fulanis of the north. The next coup was the north rebelling against the Igbos. And that's why you had the Biafra War, over 1 million people killed. So when we promote negative ethnicity, we should warn ourselves that it can have devastating effects on our country. Foolish leaders like Idi Amin. When Idi Amin took power in Uganda, he thought the best way was to finish the ethnic group of the former president Milton Obote. So he went after the Langis, went after the Acholis, went after the Baganda. And he thought if he kicks those guys out of political power and brings in his sub-tribe, then he will have a strong grip on political. But it didn't last. It didn't last. Somali, you know what happened when Farai did, Said Barre took power in Somalia. He tried to bring clan domination over others. It doesn't help. At the end of the day, we're better off building a country that is cohesive, that appreciates the 42 tribes of a country called Kenya. And that's why I began by saying that I hope that in our next elections, the Gen Z can pick even somebody which is the smallest tribe, even a Teso, and say, this guy...
That's what they'll do.
The Sanye are 400.
This guy brings the ideals on the table that can build our nationhood. We have this was the problem of tribalism, is why we came up with the 2010 Constitution. Why? Because we wanted to decentralize power. We were tired of this clarion call that if your tribe is in power, then you will get political power, economic development will be skewed to favor your tribe. And we said, fine, let us decentralize power. We come up with the devolution and say now, power, the word used in the Constitution is power and the resources will be shared to 47 counties, because we were trying to address the problems of tribalism. But what do we do? After we got the new constitution, the center does not want to let go. The executive, the presidency, still wants to come to our villages, come with MPs, and then they tell you, because we are aligned with this president in power, we will bring you development. It's utter nonsense.
And the tech functions that are devolved.
Yeah, because if you read the Constitution, we have Paul Mwang here. Yeah. You have a very progressive Constitution that tells our members that in budget-making process, from Article 222 onward, you have the most powerful entity is Parliament. But you want to follow your president and tell people, you know, if you remove this president because we are aligned with him, our tribe will suffer. Okay. We need to bring that to a stop. And I think the Gen Zs are giving us a fantastic window of opportunity to bring all that to an end, you know.
Yeah, and Council, you have a point.
Yes,
because he raises a fundamental point of reorienting ourselves, and the point at which we need to do that 360-degree turn.
Yes, but we are hoping that politics is what is going to sort out our problem of tribalism.
What will?
Let's see. But politics is not what has brought up tribalism. That's why I said first, tribalism is there, it's real. We have never dealt with it. We've never come up from being the ethnic nations that we were at the time of independence and come to agree that now we want to be Kenya. What does it really mean to be Kenya? What do we aspire for as different communities? We have not even identified that. We are now hoping that we keep thinking we'll grow out of it. Racism is still a very big problem in America. How many years later?
More than 200 years.
Yes. So this is not going to go, and we are not going to grow out of it until we deliberately deal with it. And even if the Gen Z come and let's say go and elect somebody, that is not going to deal with the problem that we're having. And politics is not going to cure it. We have the Constitution with the hope that once we go into devolution, we are going to deal with tribalism. But if you go to the counties today, there are complaints now at the counties where people say communities that were marginalized nationally now went to the counties and marginalized others.
Yes.
So we do not have a lot of marginalization possibly nationally because of the Constitution. But if you go to the counties, the tribalism and the clanism and the way it now went to the counties. And all over the very many counties, there are people complaining that they are intimidated by the larger communities. So it's a conversation we must have outside politics. The Gen Z give us an opportunity to do this, but we cannot leave it that they will grow us out of it by politics. But they are the people who possibly are ready to have this conversation. So maybe it is with them that we must start having this conversation, the conversation of coming back to ask ourselves, who are we? How did we come here? Why did we come here? And what do we want with this place?
Ayub, I think that a nation, building a nation, is a structural issue that needs to be led by a leadership that believes in the nation. We have an example in Tanzania of about 50 or 60 tribal groupings that was singularly transformed by one person into probably the only nation we have in Africa today. I mean, that's come from disparate parts. If you go to Tanzania and you start talking about tribes, they'll say, are you from Kenya? So it is possible to
And Magufuli, the late came here to warn us.
Yes, so it's possible to get a nation. But you see, the political elite that we got just didn't do it. They decided to, go the way of backwardness. And I think that, that this has come back to haunt us now because we hadn't fixed our nation and our politics is broken. And once your politics is broken, your economy will break. Your nation, your nation being will break. So I put it to you, I really believe that there's three things that we need to do. I think number one, I think that this constitution that we have is there to protect us as citizens from arbitrary arrest and arbitrary movements from the state, because we've had problems with the state, because the state had not been really changed since the colonial times. So I think that's a good thing that we have a constitution. It's not all bad. The second thing that we need to do is you will see that this tribal narrative and this tribal nationalism, even of one of the most progressive leaders in this country, Mr. Odinga, when it came to push came to shove, was asked if Ruto must go, he said, do you want Gachagua to be president? The tribal nationalism is just opposed to that. I mean, It's just strange. Let me just finish. I mean, nobody has been closer to Mr. Odinga than I. I mean, before Mwangi came there, I was there.
You are there.
Yeah, so I think that it is manufactured consent from the top. When Mr. Uhuru was running for power, he was bringing tribal politics to the Mount Kenya, not because he's wanted to get tribal, but he wanted to get the Hague. So he had to bring Mr. Ruto into government with him so that they could go defend themselves at the Hague. So they used the nation state for their own individual purposes. So this character of our political class, this decrepit character, has been consistently been part of our political economy. Today, we have hope. Today we have hope. We have a huge majority of the voters who are under 25, who have been displaced, who have no jobs, who have no future. And you know, class consciousness is bigger than tribal consciousness. It is the Gen Zs who are going to give us hope. Now, the political class we have in this country is going to fight the Gen Zs. There's no question. I've talked about that here. All the ones in government and the ones in opposition are going to fight the MG because they provide an alternative universe to our country. And it is a progressive one. And I firmly believe that they are going to transform this country come election day in 2027.
Yeah, and Prof. Ahmed points out how Mwalimu Nyerere modeled Tanzania. Lee Njiru, who worked for Kenyatta and Moi in his book, The President's Pressman, points out how Kenyatta was cautious about the Tanzanians, telling his then Vice President Moi along the border with Tanzania in the coast to be very careful and wary about the chameleon speed of the Tanzanian society. Was our premise on capitalism what led to the black colonizations, marginalization of some sections, centered power at the center, and why we had devolution in the 2010 constitution?
I have my own take on Tanzania, and have held very many conferences inside Tanzania, and I have very many friends of mine, intellectuals, Mariam Kono, Isa Shivji, and others who are my friends. I don't agree with the idealized, romanticized view of Tanzania. I don't, because I have done study. Look at the Maasai. Now they are fighting for their land in whatever. They have been displaced.
In Tanzania.
And they are in Tanzania. So let's not romanticize it. I did a long study on land and ethnicity in Eastern Africa and went across all the 9 countries. And my view is changing, but this is not for this debate. For this debate, let's look at it more generally. And I don't want to lose my brother to my right, because I may be saying things that may not be very clear. Let me be very clear about this.
Just speak.
I'm reading a book by a friend of mine from Somalia, who is raising the same questions that you are raising.
Yeah.
Badiou, you know Professor Badiou.
Yes.
Professor Badiou has just released his book on the problem with the Somali state. And 2 issues come out. Mm-hmm. It came out in our discussion last week. One is that Somalia is one tribe, one history, one culture, one language, one religion. At least 98% of the Somalis are Muslims. They eat the same food. A banana must be in their food, or some honey in some of their diet.
And camel milk.
And camel milk and camel joints. No, you see, that's it. But why is Somalia the only state in Africa that has spent the longest time as a corrupted state? And how has Somalia survived to become what it is today? So Somalia is a nation, because we have a Somali nation, but in search of a state, right? And that's why they are search of a state, they encroach on us. You remember the Greater Somalia idea? They encroach on Ethiopia because they're in search of a state, because they are a nation. For us in Kenya, our struggle is different. We are a state of nations. The Ruya are larger than, the Ruya people are larger than the average European country. Take about Finland.
Yeah.
Take about Sweden. Take about Denmark. Some of these are below 10 million people. They are way, way smaller than Mount Kenya as an enclave. You get it? But they have cohesion within them, so they are nation state. For us, we are a state because we know we are Kenyans and we have a constitution, but in search of a nation. Mm-hmm. So when we reach out to each other to see how we can build this nation, then we know what we do. Are we really trying to create anything new? No. This nation came from the factory of the minds of our ancestors, the founding fathers and mothers. And we know what we want. And I stated at the beginning, the Gen Zs are not teaching us anything new. This fantasy about the Gen Zs are just doing one thing. Okay. They are calling us back to who we are and who we should be. One, we are based on justice because we are a moral nation. This is what they are saying. We are a moral nation. And as a moral nation, we are based on justice. Two, we are many communities, our diversity, we have to be united. Therefore, we cannot be tribes. We cannot be regions. We cannot be the regions. We can only be united. Two, three, we have to have peace. And peace is not something that you just have. It's something you work for. And you cannot have peace if you are not having justice. If you are not building the wealth of the nation, you are building the wealth of an individual, then there is injustice and people will fight it. Three, you have to have freedom. This is what they call liberty, the French thing. Yeah, yes. And finally, all this must show up in form of prosperity. You cannot be poor and be peaceful and feel orderly and feel fair. So what am I saying in short?
Yes, I'm going to let him finish.
What we're saying in short is that we know what we need to do as a nation. The question is are we really doing it? The answer is no. Okay. And what are they doing instead? They are now manipulating, instrumentalizing, weaponizing ethnicity in order to stay in power, in order to avoid resistance, in order to silence dissent. So what we are talking about is not tribalism. Yeah. It is weaponization of the tribe. Yeah. Full stop.
Okay, and Senior Counsel, how then will this shift finally happen, appreciating that Kenya is a constitutional democracy and a secular state where we all are defended by the rule of law and are equal before the very same law?
You know, our constitution is based on a liberal democracy.
Yes.
But we have overthrown it of late.
Yep.
You know, because in a liberal democracy, you want credible, free and fair elections that are periodic. You have strong institutions where there is true separation of power between executive, parliament, and the judiciary. And the person who gets the backing of the people forms the government of the day. But I think, Ayub, that has lately been overthrown. What we have now is a consensus democracy, you know, where we have had discussion between Raila Odinga and Ruto. And we have a consensus democracy where you talk and agree that we will form this government jointly, which does not marry with our constitution. You know, there are countries that have taken that as their bedrock in the constitution, like Switzerland.
Yes.
You know, Switzerland's democracy is based on consensus.
Yes.
You know, so we are trying to impose a system that is not in our constitution, and then we superimpose it on our constitution and say this is the governance system that we are going to have in place. My argument is, if you want us to have consensus democracy, then you must expand it, because the Swiss of the 7 big cantons. You know, the people who form the council, the 7, rotate the presidency. Every year, you are in it for 1 year, and as a president, you're just ceremonial. The decision is by consensus, by these 7, okay? So if you want to shift to consensus democracy, then you expand it and say, maybe the Nyanza bloc will send you 1 person, the Rift Valley block 1 person, the Northern Eastern 1 person, then you have consensus democracy, like the Swiss.
What in the Arabian context is Ashura?
Yes.
Advisory Council.
Yeah. Yes. But if you dissect through our constitution, what we have is a liberal democracy, but the game changer is devolution. You know, we wanted to remove power from the center and devolve power to the counties, so that there is no so much attention on who is the president as long as service delivery is happening at the county level. Like what the Germans have done. You know, the German federalism is so powerful that people at the federal state have their own constitution, okay? They have their own parliament, and they have service provision, service delivery. And then it's also, the system itself is fair. If you are a rich state, you support the weaker one. You know, Bavaria, which is very rich, supports Saxony. So you feel like there is a sense of belonging. And that's what Kenyans intended in 2010, that once we create a devolved system of government, we devolve power and resources, we give people the power to have health, you have water from the money that we give you, we will reduce this over-concentration on who becomes a president. Yeah. But you know, the successive presidents since the enactment of that constitution have been deliberate to weaken our counties. Yeah. Yeah. You find a governor is given a budget of more than 20 billion, but he still wants to beg the national government to come and make roads. You visit all the counties in Kenya, they believe that money they get is to maram the roads. They don't believe, it never sunk in their head that they can actually tarmac the roads and connect the counties, bring economic development, so that we shift. You know, we wanted to remove this thing of every day you wake up, you want to think, who is the president? You know, if you have development at your level, you will forget about this other nonsense. And then finally, you know, political power, public participation was to give Kenyans a very key, you know, power in making a decision. In that you don't have a policy shift without the consent of Kenyans. Like the shift from, you know, people making houses for themselves to the government building houses for you. That's a serious shift. If you go to, you know, a country like Switzerland, every decision that you make, you must do a vote. You must do a referendum. And then you get ownership. That way, people feel that they are part of leadership. You're not loading it on them.
The people.
On the people. But here you wake up one day and you say, I've removed NHIF, I'm bringing you SHA. The people are not involved. You remember that in Australia, just to allow man and man to marry, you had to go to the referendum. The people had to agree and say, okay, we agree, let's go to a vote and see whether we want to allow man-to-man marriage or woman-to-woman marriage. The people give you the consent. In this country, what is public participation all about?
Cosmetic exercise.
It's cosmetic.
Council Paul, he points out the sense of belonging, and this comes through equity in education, in health and infrastructure. We had highlighted a story last night and here this morning during the news review segment in Tharaka constituency, where there is inadequate sanitation, dilapidated structures, crumbling buildings, risk of attacks by snakes, as well as overall lack of amenities. And those people in the soundbite were saying, when we go to Kenya, they were idealizing how it should look like a real school setup. The same applies for the people from northeastern Kenya and in Samburu, West Pokot counties. How then do we move towards the nation that Prof talked about and the sense of belonging Senior Counsel points out with these glaring inequities?
First, I think, you know, when in 2014, you know, that time we were called and we were trying to do these amendments to the Constitution. I remember I was spearheading that. And one of the things that we were trying to do is shift money for the education infrastructure away from national government and take it to the counties. Because a national government will never know how many primary schools need to be built all over the country. And they're saying, allocate several billions and say, this is the money we are going to spend this year on education infrastructure. Take it to the county, because the county knows where those schools are. And they're going to build. So what we saw in Tharaka Nithi, much as, of course, it's very juicy politically, it's not a failing in leader, because the national government will never know every other primary school and be able to factor and know this one is priority. The money has possibly been spent on other education infrastructure rather than the one that is priority to that area. But on the other side, I say, you know, we talked about the kind of democracy we have. We put in a democracy that is not realistic to who we are. And what we were trying to aspire is, with the classical, to us, the classical Western-style democracy is the best. And that is what we keep insisting, that, oh, you are elected, now you lead. No, the way we have practiced our democracy even since the new constitution is that people must be involved in every government. The issue of governments of national unity in Kenya are now a reality. And if we don't find a way to factor it in as part of our law, then we will keep ignoring the constitution, because we will never have a stable government that comes in with several communities, and then other people are being told, go and wait in the opposition. That is not going to happen. And that brings also now a third issue which Prof was talking about justice. Somewhere, I wouldn't say in one of the last two presidencies that are there was a time when there were complaints about ethnic appointments. And I remember telling somebody, this might appear to be a very good idea to those who are doing it ethnically, but they're forgetting it will create a justification for somebody else, which is now, every time a tribal community is locked out, it now also seeks power so that it can undo. So, and the only way to stop that, now we are in a spiral. We are in a vicious circle where every political grouping wants to come so that it undoes what the other political grouping does, until we can have, as Prof said, justice. That it doesn't matter who is president, there is some predetermined entitlement for everybody. And therefore, I will not be seeking power so that I can come and undo a damage that was done. And that is what has happened with Somalia. That the mistakes and the injustices that have been committed, you now can't unravel them. Because it's now always this clan is the one that did this, so now you have to do it to them. So, and it's a spiral. That
becomes perpetual.
It becomes perpetual. And Kenya is headed there. We are getting to a point where Kenyan politics will become a question of perpetual rebalancing of ethnic equations.
My senior has accused me of being a romantic. I take that, and I agree. I am romantic.
Romanticizing Tanzania.
No, it's the same thing.
Romanticizing.
It is Tanzania.
It's the same word. I accept I'm romantic. He's not. Tanzanians.
We're not talking about what happens at night.
I listen to you very quickly.
You always like going to the night.
Criticism just as much as you take it, dish it out. So I think, it is romantic for a hijabi woman from Zanzibar in a small village, is the president of Tanzania, who's a Muslim to boot. That is a tremendous transformation, and there's nothing romantic about it. It's a constitutional system of government. The way that the Tanzanians have structured their politics and their society, they're probably going to overtake us. There's one example that I like to use a lot about our failures. There's something called the gross national product, and there's something called the gross national pride. Kenya Airways, this Kenya Kwanza government, always used to watch TV and they'd say, we are going to fix Kenya Airways, we're going to fix Kenya Airways, we're going to fix Kenya Airways. Kenya Airways is still in the doldrums up to today. The reason that Kenya Airways is not working is a matter of statecraft. The government today, no matter our problems of nation, nationalism, democracy, at the end of the day, the people of this country want jobs. They want food on the table. They want decent schools. They want running water. They want agriculture to work. They don't want fake fertilizer. They don't want all these kinds of things. What they need is a working nation. What the Gen Zs are fighting for is a working nation. There are two words in that, working and nation. And this is quite transformative. What they're telling the audience that the generations before us have not really come to the core of the matters of this republic. And I'm partisan to the Gen Zs because, they have really thrown the conservative British upper stiff-necked education that we were all brought up with. These Kibaki kids, these are Kibaki's kids. They had good education, free education. So Mr. Ruto and the Minister of Finance have no idea. I don't know if they're talking in cabinet because the Minister of Finance is saying one thing about education and the President is saying an entirely different thing. So you can see that the problem of the government is statecraft. And why is there a problem of statecraft? Because Mr. Ruto has brought about a tribal grouping into government that's largely incompetent, that's unable to run this government to where we, the people of this country, want it. And that is at the heart of it, is the idea of the leader of a country not thinking in a particular way, but to think in a general way. There are so many brilliant Kenyans in this country that the president could make use of in trying to run this country. But we have a president who has been produced by the ethnic jingoism of this country. Mr. Ruto has never provided any progressive thing in this country since he was Eldoret North MP. And today we are paying the price of all of us wallowing in the miasma of our tribal nonsense, a thing that should have been thrown out right at independence. It is the 21st century. We have no right to start speaking about what our ethnicities are going to do for the country. What we need to talk about is what the republic is going to go and how we're going to unify East Africa and how we're going to compete in the modern world.
And yes, Prof, because Council also pointed out consensus democracy, which was also Senior Council's point. Ideally, then, is it becoming a latching on and a soft landing spot for Kenya's political elite, in the case of Odinga, because who is a beneficiary and provided a political ballast. A political ballast.
Let me
ensure that. So how is the political class exploiting this?
Let me make this point. I really, I'm in good company.
Yeah.
Because the thoughts that they are bringing onto the table are very important in terms of the remaking of Kenya into what we expected it to be from the beginning. It's a moral nation. We fought colonial injustice. That's really what made us. And as a nation, we are forged on the anvil of that kind of a moral nation. We don't want to pay taxes to a government that whatever. We don't want to be answerable to a queen, that woman who is out there, Elizabeth. We want to be answerable to ourselves. These were ideals we know of. But today, and the debate that you subjected us to, I use the word subjected us to today.
And woke you up to.
Yeah, it's not a fair debate. Why isn't it a fair debate? It's not a fair debate because what we are experiencing today is not what we call proliferation of tribalism. We have always been ourselves. He has a name, Omugeni, that starts with an O. I have a name that starts with a K. And you'll have a name that starts with a H. I mean, because that's who you are. Just like we have beans, yellow beans, black beans, and so on. It is an issue. Yes, and they are all beans. So it's not the issue. The issue is when you use the mind to turn something from what it is to something that you want. Talk about the debate, a little digression here, the manipulation of the carrot. That the Dutch wanted the carrots to be their carrot because they're the ones growing it. And what do we have now? We have the kind of carrot we have, and everybody thinks that is the color of the carrot. And you know, there are multiple colors of a carrot as a product. In Kenya, we have no tribalism. We have just the weaponization of the tribe for political gains. And that's what we are experiencing today. Weaponizing one identity. Remember, we have many identities. In 2022, we weaponized another identity called class. We named ourselves Hazras, and we named others as dynasties, and we went through. So
the last time you were here, Prof, you argued that 2027, unlike your some few minutes ago submissions, that 2027 will be about a contest between tyranny and democracy.
I will say this. In terms of competition of ideals, we want to reassert the values of our nation. And as I said, ours is a moral nation. And we are not going to give an inch in the creation of that moral nation based on what I have said here. I don't want to repeat it. Justice being one of the foremost values. That is there. And therefore, the 2027 contest, from that perspective, from a moral perspective, will be between tyranny and democracy. Democracy being what we are asserting, tyranny being the deviation from our constitution, the constitution we gave ourselves. But in terms of the ideology that are going to govern this, I see two here. One is, of course, the gender. There have been so much killing in this land, particularly of young children, that the mothers that mother, people are crying out for that motherness. If you read the history of Egypt, after every 4 years, when these young men, Ramesses and others, have bled the country to death, they would always call in a mother, Nefertiti, Cleopatra.
Who's a Somali?
Every 4 is okay, whatever she is. Has your trouble.
Yeah.
Now, so you see, every 4 years, every 4 generations, they would call a woman to sanitize and bring the country to morality. Here, in 2027, we need a feminine, a motherly aspect. Now, I don't know where we are going to get it.
Yeah.
I am searching I'm searching for a mother. I'm searching for a mother. So the 2027 axis must revolve around the gender.
Okay.
The 2027 must revolve around gender.
Party leader.
The motherhood. Yes.
Your party
leader. Because don't personalize it.
Just
if you give me a sister who is able, I'll be okay.
Correct.
Okay? If you give me a sister who is okay, I am okay.
Go ahead.
What I know is that we have spilled so much blood of innocent kids that the only person crying is a mother. So we need the softness of a mother.
Yes.
Now, the other thing is, we have, going back to what Omogeni said, on a serious note, here we have this struggle between consensus democracy
and liberal democracy.
And we have liberal democracy.
Which is,
our constitution is about liberal democracy. Now, mixing liberal democracy and consensus democracy has given us consistently a mongrel democracy that is neither liberal nor consensus. And this is what has ethnicized our politics. Because if you ask an ordinary person in Mount Kenya, what is the problem with Kenya today? We voted Ruto, and Ruto appointed Raila. It's very simple mathematics. Therefore, our vote is useless.
Okay.
So where is the liberal democracy in this situation where there is...
Yes, and Senior Counsel, and I'm sure as one of the senior lawyers in this country, it's appalling, is it, when we go that direction of mutilating our Katiba at the expense of accommodating the political elite?
I think we must, I want to use the word, we must be deliberate. Now we protect our constitution. If the Kenyans chose a liberal democracy, we must protect liberal democracy. If, on the other hand, we form an opinion that our 2010 constitution is not serving us, there's nothing wrong in revisiting that constitution, amending it to accommodate our multicultural society. You get it? I gave you the case of Switzerland. You know, Switzerland acknowledges that it has got Germans, Romanians, Italians, the French. So everything they do is deliberate to accommodate those 4 multilingual communities. If you go to school, you'll get books in all the 4 languages, you know. When they are rotating their democracy, that considered democracy, they will always accommodate, people from those communities. So and there is nothing wrong in revisiting our 2010 constitution. Mwangi here will tell you, the Americans amended their constitution after 5 years. After 5 years.
14 times.
Yeah, they amended their constitution and introduced new 12 clauses. In this country, when you mention amending a constitution, people think like you want to commit murder. There's nothing wrong. You know, if you go to Australia, a referendum happens, you'll never notice. Last year, there was a referendum to accommodate the local aborigines, putting it in the constitution that before you do any legislations, you must consult the aborigines. That law was subject to a referendum, voted, and it didn't go through. But in this country, anytime you mention constitution amendment, people are like, no, we can't go to a referendum. I hope you listened to what Mwangi told you. Mwangi told you that we should have devolved education fully. And he's telling you that because in Germany, education is fully devolved. What we need to do to Kenyans is once you give services, if you make devolution work, people can get health services, people can get good roads, people can get water at the local level. The issue of sanitation is dealt with. People will stop having a lot of focus on the presidency. If you go to a country like Costa Rica does not even have a national army. Their concentration is to ensure that the citizens get education, they have good health, and they have a happy population, you know? And then you have a free, fair elections. You fix a country. But this idea of saying, I'll use ethnic loyalty and mobilization as a route to getting political power. The problem you get is this. The moment you go that route, you will make ethnic allegiance to be a factor in your governance structure. Appointments will now be based on you rewarding your ethnic groupings. You remember there is a time last year, we were looking at the permanent secretaries, principal secretaries. Out of 51, 13 were from Kalenjin community. Out of 180 parastatal heads, 36 were from one ethnic community. Why? Because of the issue of saying political loyalty that has given me political power. We must reward them.
And by the way, the High Court quashed the appointment of KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority officials. Of the 1,400, half, 700 are from Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities. But the court found it as unconstitutional.
You know, one good development is that I hope now everybody knows come 2027 that pre-election political coalitions in Kenya are useless. So let nobody bother go and try to mobilize ethnically. Because you know the moment, whoever you support, the moment he gets power, he has to deal with a totally different reality. And that MOU you signed will be trash. and
how about post-election coalition, like what your party did with the UDA party?
Let's talk about post-election. But you know, they say that this consensus democracy is a reality. When Kibaki came in with NARC and KANU was left out, they didn't last 2 years.
You know,
and he had to call KANU in because his government became totally unstable. And that was still not enough. We still had the clashes of 2007 and then had to go into a coalition government. When Uhuru came in, his first term also had bravado of
tyranny of numbers.
The tyranny of numbers. I remember you were told they're eating meat, we should watch. Come the second term, he was not going to survive the second term without going into consensus democracy. Ruto has not, within 2 years, has realized.
So do we amend the constitution?
That he has, yes. So the issue that we need...
So then you're building up on a consensus...
we are already practicing it. But that was, by the way, much as our constitution has this system, the truth is that before we went to Naivasha, it is not Kenyans who chose this presidential system. What was on the table was a parliamentary system.
But parliamentary system...
That is what Kenyans had chosen. We are having this problem because when we went to Naivasha, we robbed Kenyans what they had chosen. Kenyans had chosen a parliamentary democracy. And parliamentary democracies are the best when you're talking about about diverse communities. Because then power keeps shifting and changing. And unlike presidential, that is what we had chosen. When we went to Naivasha, that was removed. We installed a presidential system. And since then, we're having all these problems.
Ayub, I'll give you the last word.
Ayub, I firmly believe in parliamentary system of government. I agree with my friend, Mr. Mwangi. But you see, the ODM fellows here want Odinga to become prime minister. I think that they should not use the ideology of a parliamentary system to hash an agenda on national TV. I think that very important for us to be forthright with the people of this country. It's important, and I think even though we urge the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, to adopt this prime ministerial system, we actually believed we were going to win in the presidential system. And now that we didn't win, you know, that is the only party I belong to. I've never hip-hopped on any political party. And since that has happened now, the eyes have come out to see that we need a parliamentary system of government in which we have a president and a prime minister with the largest political party in the National Assembly who are going to govern. And, you know, there we can make deals and consensus. I agree with them 100%. But I think that this is being hashed because I predicted here that Mr. Ruto is going to try and make Mr. Odinga the prime minister. And I believe firmly that the people first need to be taken through this constitution first. We need to go to the 2027 election, elect the new president, and after that we can start talk about prime ministers.
Prof, the last word, yes.
Now, I know we have talked about the moral nation as the ideal of what we want. And a moral nation is a just nation where citizens are given responsibilities by fellow Kenyans to govern, not to enrich themselves, but to enrich the nation. Not to provide services to their tribes, but to provide services to all Kenyans.
To citizens.
That we know, all Kenyan citizens, that we know. But the reality being what it is, we are talking about tribes. I agree, personally, that the new constitution as currently constituted and the reality of the Kenyan demography, the 42 tribes, none of which has a majority, the highest being about 17% in terms of numbers. We are condemned to always coalesce to make a Raja governing coalition. And there is no way we will never move to that. Either we have pre-election coalitions or post-election coalitions. Now, what is failing is pre-election coalitions are not honored, and therefore we end up having these mongrel governments. Now, is tribe going to end in 2027? No. Actually, the anger in Mount Kenya, and I say the anger in Mount Kenya, not tribalism, the anger and rancor in Mount Kenya for betrayal is the one that is going to shape the 2027 election. It is not rationality. Let's be clear. It's not rationality. It is not what we are calling the values. It is the anger, because there's a feeling of betrayal and so on. What does that mean? Gachagua and his allies are going to emerge as a major bloc. Don't get surprised if there's a coalition between Gachagua and William Ruto. This time, on an equal footing, with Gachagua having his numbers, not a member of UDA, and Ruto having his fewer numbers as a member of UDA that has been liquidated from Mount Kenya. Fathom that.
So what happens to Odinga and the ODM party?
Now, that's what I'm saying, because you have shown that there are some ethnic coalition you respect. Nobody talks about Raila's tribalism in mobilizing the Luo into a garrison. And when Gachagua does it, he's not doing the right thing. So in 2027, we are going to see Gachagua and Ruto coming together on the basis of equality of nations. No, this is a point. And Raila is going to be marginalized. What are you going to do?
Again.
No, we are saying now Gachagua is trumped because he doesn't have the numbers.
Just 2 words. I think it's very important that we continue to support and delegitimize tribal coalition, these containers. This is not a national vision. What we, and I want to tell my senior, my senior, that it's very important that everything that is impossible, that everybody said was impossible, was done. It's Justice Brandeis. After that, after it was done, is when people realized that it can be done. We need a way forward out of the morass that we're in, and the Gen Zs are going to take us out.
Now, from the whole discussion, including what the Prof is saying, it's clear to me that we must go back to what Kenyan chose, which was a parliamentary democracy.
I agree.
And possibly that the current problems that Kenya has today, political problems, if we were talking about a prime minister who has to have the consensus of the House, who has to keep talking to different
agree.
in the House.
I agree.
We would have a totally different country. Totally different political reality.
But we are the ones who messed up. We had the chance and we didn't do it.
Ahmed, much appreciated for your time.
Thank you.
Counsel, Paul. Asante sana. Prof, asante.
Great show.
We just pause the discussion and we proceed some other time. Senior Counsel, much appreciated for your company. Pleasure to have you here on the broadcast. Many thanks, gentlemen. And thanks to you too for working up with us here on Daybreak. And we'll sample your feedback some other times. Because of time, we have to get out of studio. And thanks to you too. Thank you as well. We'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast. Next up is today is Tuesday, so it's Social Hour. And the next team will be here with you in a couple of minutes. Thanks for watching.